Agriculture is an industry poised for significant growth in jobs, investment, economic activity, and a positive solution to issues important to Canadians and global consumers. Alberta is in an excellent position to lead this growth. Welcome to Nourishing Minds, where we dig deeper into agriculture. My name is Larry Williamson, and I am the CEO of Agriculture for Life. To talk further about Alberta's Strategic Action Plan, I am joined today by Kim McConnell, founder and former CEO of AdFarm, and Scott Bolton, president and CEO of UFA. So we can dive right in and talk, as we talked about the other day, the Strategic Action Plan. That was a big report that you both were the principal authors. And I was very intrigued when I was reading the report, and of course with Ag for Life and the work that we do around agriculture education, and really brokering conversations where we're trying to bridge the gap between those that are more familiar with agriculture and those that are less familiar with agriculture. And when we look at some of the work that's being done in the industry, there's a lot of advancements, there's a lot of opportunities. And so I thought maybe we'd have a quick chat today and just, get some thoughts when it comes to, the design and development of the report. So Scott, I know that you worked with the Business Council of Alberta. Can you tell us a little bit about who they are and they've asked you to do this report, and maybe just provide us a little background on that?
Yeah, absolutely, Larry. The background is interesting. So the Business Council of Alberta, as you referred to, is a relatively new organization of chief executive officers of businesses across Alberta. It's not industry specific, so it includes agriculture, oil and gas, construction, from northern Alberta to southern Alberta and all parts in between. UFA is a member of this organization, and we contribute to its mandate. Now, when the crisis first occurred in March, the pandemic really set in, and the economic reality or consequence started to become felt. The Premier, in his wisdom, formed an economic recovery council made up of a number of key business leaders throughout Alberta to advise him on the issues, economic issues that he was already facing, this group through the Business Council of Alberta in turn struck a number of subcommittees, if you want to call it that, including an agricultural committee to provide specific industry guidance. And so I was asked to chair that committee, and thinking back to March, my first call was to Kim McConnell, and between the two of us, we put together a pretty powerful group of industry reps within a couple of hours, I think, Kim, as I recall, and set out to eventually draft this document, which we are discussing today. So that's really how it all came about. It was out of the crisis that our committee was formed, and then we continued to meet after things settled down a bit, and eventually turned our attention to developing a strategic plan approach, for the Premier and the government to consider as they plan the future recovery of our economy.
And so that was a question I wanted to ask Scott, that is the audience really that the plan was developed for, was to provide some guidance to government. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, it started out almost as a crisis management group, and frankly, we were meeting very frequently to talk about what, back in March and April, there was a concern about the liquidity of the industry, whether we're going to get crops in the ground, the supply chain. You remember the whole saga over the N95 masks and trying to find PPE for our producers, and then the crisis in the cattle industry when the packing plant outbreaks occurred and the production was cut off, and the backup in the cattle in the feedlot sector. So yeah, that's what it really started out as. But then as we got through the initial crisis, we the premier and the council at the end realized that we need now to start to turn our attention to our future in this post-pandemic world, and it became pretty clear to everyone that agriculture has a key role to play in that future, and that led us to the genesis to developing the plan that we published in June.
Well, and absolutely. I mean, one thing that COVID did bring is a heightened awareness of the importance of agriculture and food. For many of us, we've never gone to the grocery store and seen empty shelves. And so we've never worried about it. And a lot of us, would take really the industry for granted. Food is there. We go to the grocery store. We might complain that the head of lettuce is expensive that week, but other than that, we haven't put much thought to it. And so I think, the timing, as awful as the pandemic is, it's also allowed us as Albertans to look and sort of reflect on the importance. And of course, agriculture is foundation of who we are and what our driver here in Alberta. So maybe, Kim, you can dive a little bit and talk about, you've divided these into some planks.
So let's maybe take off a little bit more, Larry, where you really were there. Not only was Alberta hurt with the COVID issue, we also have our major driver of our economy has been the oil and gas community, as we all know. And it was recognized that, and we were tasked with what could we deliver to be able to help the Alberta economy. And that's where these things are, because I'm sure not telling you anything that you don't know, or the audience that we're talking with today. But the agriculture and forestry industry are poised for significant growth. And when we look at what Alberta has in its land, its water, its cold winters, its sunshine, these are strengths in which we can do. And then when you combine that with our entrepreneurial background and our reputation for excellence and the sophistication of our industry, from farmers to the whole system, we are clearly an industry of growth, of opportunity, of investment, etc. So that was what we were. That's where we got around, and we said, okay, now let's make this happen. And to make that happen, we need to start with a plan. We need a strategic action plan. And the couple of drivers of this plan were fairly straightforward. Here is the heightened awareness that the consumer has, both domestic and international, for a trusted source of food. Well, by golly, we deliver on that. The second thing that we have is the consumer of today is much more concerned about sustainability and all these other things. Well, we are not only becoming more sustainable, we are a solution in a lot of ways in that. So that was the planks from which, the building blocks, let's call it, from which we started. We went from there. Now, because we just started and said, okay, we needed something that was short and to the point. We knew the premier is a busy lad and that he is not going to read a ton of stuff. So we come up and we come up with the 2-pagers, we called it. Now we put a few pictures in it and it became 8, but in reality it's a 2-pager. And we come up with 6 planks that we felt were starting point that we could get our head around. And we did not flesh these planks out, and we would love to flesh these planks out to be able to go forward. And we didn't put them in order of priority. Okay. But we did put them in order to be able to make a few messages come clear. Like, for example, the first plank that we said is we should be leading the sustainability economy. Alberta, we have the opportunity to make Alberta the world's home for carbon offset market. That is something that agriculture could really do. That changes the perception that many people may have of Alberta today. So that is an opportunity. We are our industry, as you well know, Larry, is we are a secret, both the forestry industry and the agriculture, to sequester carbon. Very, very important thing. So what could we do as an industry to make this even better? Well, the first thing we can do is get credit for what the heck we're already doing. You know, look at what we're doing with crops, with pastures, with the sink that is coming in every day in the forestry. Let's take some credit. We're getting harmed on this. We're being polluters, they say, but let's give it some credit. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that we can get credit for practices that we're already doing. For example, our zero-till activities, for what we're doing with controlled release nitrogens, what we're doing in these practices. Let's get some credit for that kind of thing. Then we can further support new technology. And look, we got some real leaders here in Alberta that have got new things that they're doing. Nutrients coming out with some great new practices and technologies that will make that even better. And then we look at the whole carbon capture market. We have a 10-year head start on that over anybody else. Let's flesh that out. And we got companies like Maple Leaf Foods and WestJet and others that want to buy credits so that it'll fit into their sustainability opportunity. So Larry, our first opportunity we said was, hey, let's take advantage of this sustainability economy because that's right for agriculture and forestry. So that was our first plan.
Perfect. And I want to ask you a couple questions there, Kim. So there's, you know, depending on who you talk to, you're going to hear different definitions of sustainability, right? So as you're talking and you're mentioning some highlights and some examples, you're talking climate, environment.
In this case, that's what we were talking.
Yes.
But as we well know, sustainability is more. It's social sustainability, it's economic sustainability, it's all that other. In this case, we were looking at the driver being the consumer is concerned about carbon, about climate change. We're a solution, not just the problem here. Let's take advantage of that.
Perfect, good. That's a great clarification because we do hear a lot about some of the negative impacts in agriculture on the, you know, from an environmental perspective. And I think it's important that audiences understand that there is a lot of innovation that's happening and to take the time to understand that.
Exactly right. And that flows in, actually all of these 6 planks kind of come together too. So let's build on. So the second one we wanted to reinforce was the importance of trade and exports. You know, there's all the talk about local, and that's wonderful. Local is wonderful, but by the same token, folks, this is a province that is driven in a lot of ways by the export opportunities. So let's take advantage of the export opportunities. Let's make sure that we keep those going. We are a major player for the GDP of the province and the country, and we can do even more in our exports. How do we take advantage of the containers that are here? How do we need to, some changes that can be done to make sure that we move rail cars faster, that we can do whatever else it is so that we can be a trusted source of exports, because we're one of few in the world that can do that. So we said the second plank is exports and trade. Do not forget about that one as you're looking at the shiny toys on the other opportunities, because exports and trade play an important role.
In export and trades, then you mentioned transportation. Is that one of the key areas? So when the government is looking at this, how am I going to bring plank to
well,
life?
yes, I think that's one, but we've also said, okay, we're putting trade ambassadors. The government has said we're doing, okay, well, how can we work with that to be able to build out our trade in Vietnam or Southeast Asia or whatever else? There's lots of things in the whole thing that comes under that. And each of these planks, Lorene, needs to be fleshed out in more detail, more things so that they can come together. And that's why it's called a strategic action plan, right?
But Kim makes a really good point. This one alone is a big question, and it's more than just the infrastructure of railways and port facilities. It's trade policy, as Kim mentioned, and the importance of being proactive and promoting our brand across the world is as important as all of the infrastructure that comes in behind it. Our point is that this has to be looked at strategically as one whole in relation to an entire plan that Kim's been taking you through.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point around the marketing, right? It is a brand. It is, we're
absolutely,
and we have the best, I'm going to say that, product. And so, we do really need to build on that reputation and that brand and to look at some new markets. And, we can see the vulnerability that, having relations with other countries, and we can look at our friends down south and just see how, things can change.
Yeah.
And so making sure that as a brand, we're up front, we're center, we're building out new opportunities. So I can see that. And building upon Kim's point around the sustainability, we are leading the way. We've kind of kept that a secret, but now it is part of our brand, and that is a selling advantage that we really need to take a look at.
I think a lot of it is telling our story. We do so much well, but I guess it's our nature not to publicize or brag, but we need to do a bit of bragging. And we have to these days support it with data, and that's a lot around our first plank is and there's a business here to be had, particularly around the carbon capture market, where if we can measure it and demonstrate our practices, which we already do, we can make money and grow business, and an element of our ag economy can be based upon this particular area, which is only going to grow.
So and so I'm just going to add to the point from a consumer perspective and making sure that, as we're building this out, being confident as, an Albertan, a Canadian, I have access to high quality, affordable, culturally relevant food that we're really working towards. And so that's, I can be proud as a consumer to stand behind that. So excellent. Go ahead, Kim.
That ties into plank 6 here in a minute. If we look at the second plank being exports and trade, the third plank is clearly around the value added opportunity and challenge that sits before us. And in many ways, we could probably say that is where we have the most opportunity to be able to do things, to take what we already are having and be able to build upon, whether that's turning peas into protein or rehabilitating our forests or doing more value added in the beef and pork industry, whatever it is. We have tremendous opportunities to do more things in that area, and we need to stimulate and make that happen. We called that the greenhouse challenge, not as just greenhouses, because greenhouses are a great opportunity. This week, for example, and there's some new things that we can do. This week I had the great opportunity to tour the most advanced greenhouse in North America is in our province, probably even in the world, and what we're doing. And this is just blows you away on what can be done in taking our sunlight, our energy, our water, and being able to produce this for the Costco's and the Wendy's of the world. And then you look at strange things, like another tour I had today or yesterday was in the insect business. And look at what could be done in all that. And these are all new opportunities that we can do and they need to be fleshed out, and they need to be all brought together. And you look at things like the canola, you know, we're taking canola oil and the other, but where is our biodiesel that we could have to help WestJet and Air Canada be able to, those are new opportunities that need to be planned, fleshed out, invested. And that ties in to two issues. First off, we got too darn much red tape silliness.
I was going to
And we're making it too damn hard to do happen. And we were clear to the Premier here. Let's fix this silliness. Come on, nobody is asking for lower standards, but if speed is important in this, if we're attracting investment in other areas and do this, we need to be able to get the permits. We need to be able to get the people. We need to be able to do that. Come on, let's get the red tape under control. And that leads us, Larry, into plank number 4. We gotta have the money. Money is a key component to be able to make all this come together. And we need to look at this and create the proper investment environment so that we can capitalize, get the capital that is needed to be able to support the entrepreneurs, to attract the big opportunities that are coming. So in some cases, it's going to take $25,000 to get things up and going. In other cases, it's going to take $50 or $500 million. What do we need to do to have the environment in that regard? And Scott can go on in great detail about some of the things that we could do to make ourselves a much more attractive geography in Alberta, in Canada, and as an industry, if we would focus on addressing that plank.
Yeah, and I will add, just to carry on to the points that you're making, all of this is in Alberta's wheelhouse. I mean, look at the energy sector, how we built the value add, the refining end of the business. We can do the same here. I mean, we're an entrepreneurial culture really in Alberta. We've proven that. We're resilient. We built this province with our bare hands and built, you know, the standard of living we have. There's no reason we can't take what we've done in the energy sector and do it again in building out what Kim's describing in agriculture. Absolutely no reason. Our educational standards, our focus on the environment, all of this, it just plays to strengths. But yeah, we've got to create what Alberta used to have, and that is, you know, the low tax, minimal red tape environment. We've got to have standards, of course, but equally applied, consistently applied, quickly applied. I mean, we've gotten away from that a bit, I think, somehow. We got to get it back and apply it to this sector, and then find the capital, like we did in the energy sector, through innovative approaches to private capital, perhaps government capital in combination. These days, you have to look at it that way, strategically. And if we do that,
strategic
knock it out of the park.
Plan.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to ask you, I was going to say, Scott, so why haven't we done this, right? So, you know, here we are, it's 2020, and there's been so many opportunities, and you know, with the work that we're doing at Ag for Life, we started back in 2011, and we've been talking about the amazing work of agriculture. And so, you know, what is holding it up? And so you mentioned a few points, right? There's some red tape, there's the capital considerations, you know, we need to stimulate investment. But I think, you know, we're at the cusp. You know, over the last 10 years that I've been working with Ag for Life, and I've been blessed to meet a lot of different industry members and talk to consumers and try and understand more around this dynamic industry and how it's changing. And so it is exciting to see, and a lot of the work that we do, again, with Ag for Life is careers, and talking about what the opportunities are in agriculture and that next generation, and what the skill sets are going to be needed. And I think young Albertans should be really excited around agriculture. And I'm sure Kim's going to mention a little bit about that, because I know we all get excited when we talk about the opportunities, and especially for, you know, the young Albertans, or anyone that's looking at maybe a, you know, a rebirth of a career.
Yeah.
So I plant that there because that's getting me excited about it. So,
So
and
before we get into that one, our fifth one addressed a couple of hurdles, and the first part is we're in the industry that plays with the elements, plays with the weather, we play with market, we're playing with risks that are beyond our control. So it's really important that we have risk mitigation tools that are in place. And the present risk mitigation tools are just not good enough. So this was a nudge to our political arms, our political friends, and said, come on, show the leadership, let's help make this happen. We recognize it's not just a provincial deal, this is also a national deal, but let's move with that. The next part of the hurdle is connectivity. You know, we're living in the COVID showed us how important it is to live in the electronic highway. This rural is at a disadvantage here. We need 5G, we need connectivity. So our fifth plank was, let's address some of these hurdles. And we just threw two of those out and said, come on, let's get after them. The internet is the highway or the electricity of the past. We need to address this and go hard. So that was our thing. And our final plank, Laurie, was we said we need a champion to be able to move this whole industry forward. We can build on all of these things, but we need to take advantage of what it is. And we need leadership and championing of that. We need labor. We are an industry that needs high technology people all the way through to people in the plants. We need training. We need development. And what are we suggesting in that regard? Well, it's a few things. The first is we need to get agriculture into the curriculum.
yeah.
We need to get it into the curriculum, and good for Ag for Life and for you, Laurie, and and what you're doing with Ag in the classroom, because the young people of today are not seeing the opportunities they need that we have in the industry, the excitement we have. And it starts with the kids and it starts in the curriculum. So Ag for Life, you've got an important role to play, but it needs to go beyond that. We need ag training in our colleges. Not only do we need good colleges, we need colleges that are dedicated and focused and be able to take the ag technology and the new things and bring them to life. And that's where the old colleges and the Lakeland colleges, we need to have this ag focused component of that. Yes, so that they can collaborate, take and work with industry better than they have, work with some of the other things. We need to have the colleges. And finally, we need to have apprenticeships, whether that's summer jobs or whether that's doing other things. These are apprenticeships that can go forward and make that happen. And to do all this, we need to have somebody championing our thing. And we spelled out to the Premier, Premier, we need you. You are the Premier of our province, of all industries. Raise the flag, be our spokesperson. But by the same token, we as an industry want to work together with you. If we are going to make these 6 planks all come together, and there's probably more that can come, we can do this. We need to flesh out each of these planks, but we also need to have industry plus government working together. Government needs to support industry, and industry needs to support government. And when that happens, then we will have success. Success is a team sport, and we challenge the Premier and the council to say, we're an industry of growth and opportunity. We're here to help. Give us the chance to help flesh this thing out. We are living below our potential, but we want to work with you to make that happen. So that was our strategic action plan. Very simple, 2-pager. Love to flesh it out into more detail.
So as you say, strategic action plan. What's the time frame?
Quite honest, now let Scott go add into that as well. We just put it back to them and said, you asked for this, this is what we're giving you.
Yeah.
We would ask you to respond and tell us how we can work together.
Perfect. Yeah, so
the answer is we got to move quickly, because we're not the only ones that have figured out that this industry is maybe going to be the preeminent industry globally, even as it used to be, as it once was, going forward, because the technological and innovative element alone is staggering, and the opportunity is as well. So we, we're in competition, and we need to move quickly with a focused strategy, with a strategy in mind. You can't do everything. Pick a few things, do them well. We think we've set out some practical steps or opportunities in that regard. So, we've got to move quickly is the answer to your question.
And so let me add one more thing in here. So for those that are a little bit, further removed from agriculture, what is, and we're talking about the advancements and how things are happening. And as a consumer, we know that, public trust can go up and down a little bit, and some of the change, and there's some stereotypes of what agriculture should be and how we should be growing food and that sort of thing. And this is, probably a challenge we're going to face moving forward, because we do have to feed a growing population, and we have to do it efficiently and sustainably and all of that.
And affordably.
And affordably. That's a huge one.
Absolutely, it is.
I saw a snippet on the news the other night that talked about expect your grocery bill to go up. And so then we have a whole other issue of food security and food waste, and that's a whole other conversation we'll have another day. But
but Laurie, let me interject here.
Yeah.
That is really key. We are a province, and we are a nation that has the resources to be able to deliver safe, dependable, nutritious, affordable food. We've got all the elements to be able to do this. Our time has come. Now let's take advantage of it.
Yeah, and so that's our request to the government, because I would say, what's holding us back? And so we need action. We need to move it forward. We need industry collaboration with government. And we talked about it. Let's build, we're building a brand. We have a brand. Let's push it out there. And I'd listened to an interview that you gentlemen had done. You've been talking great with a lot of great organizations around the plan. And there were 3 words that Scott had mentioned throughout your conversations was trust, reliability, sustainability. So we've got our words: strategic action plan, trust, reliability, sustainability. Let's get going. Thank you very much for taking the time. As I said, we could probably talk more and more and more. And as you get the opportunity to start fleshing these out, keep us in the loop, because I know people are very interested in agriculture and food. We appreciate your time. You gentlemen are very busy, changing the world, growing, and producing food for the rest of us. And we appreciate that. And thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you. We appreciate the opportunity. Great conversation.
Good.
All the best.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye now.